Welcome back to Share Her Story, Inspiring Women in Switzerland. I created this space for women who are consciously navigating change, growth, and reinvention. For women who are building careers, families, identities, and futures, our future, often all at the same time. Today's conversation is about career, parenthood, and preventative mental health, and why we need to stop waiting until we break before we ask for support. My guest today is Ashley Ringer. Ashley is an interdisciplinary psychologist and professional development expert focused on preventative mental health care across personal, professional, and family life. Having lived and worked in 3 countries and navigated parenthood through fertility treatments herself, she brings both deep expertise and lived experience into the work she does every day with individuals and organizations. Ashley, I welcome you with open arms to share her story, inspiring women in Switzerland. And I'm so happy to have you here today.
My goodness, thank you for that introduction. And I'm very happy to be here today and to share my story as well.
Yeah, how do you feel?
Very relaxed, very at home, and as you said, here with open arms.
The dance helped a little bit, right? And
It
now
did.
the herbal
It really
tea.
did.
Ashley, you describe your approach as strength based and future focused. Where did that philosophy come from in your own life?
That's a great question. I think when life has a way of teaching us certain things that inform the way we live our lives, but the way we do our work, and all the twists and turns that my life had taken, I realized I could either embrace what was coming or resist it. And there was a lot of times where I felt like I could really only see the things I didn't have. I was missing this, I wanted that, I was working for that, and just things weren't happening, or life was taking the twists and turns that it does. And there's a quote by the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu, and it goes something like, if you live in the past, you're depressed. If you live in the future, you're anxious. And if you live in the present, you're at peace. And for me, when I stumbled upon this quote, it really meant a lot. And it let me kind of just think about what I have in this moment and all the things that I am. So this is where strengths come in. Is it was this reality that I'm not all these non-things. I am so much more. And all the places I've been emotionally, physically, professionally, up until that point are my strengths. They're the things that I can use to build the future that I want. And that's where that future focus component comes in, is that it's about really understanding how life has brought us to where we are, what we have in our metaphorical backpack to get us where we want to be. Because the future is unwritten. And that's why I use that a lot in my practice and my personal philosophy. So you can think about, hey, so this has all happened to me, so what now? What's the how to make the future that you want? And your strengths are the resources to make that possible.
Wow, I think you said it so beautifully. Present is a gift, right? That's why they call it a present, right? Oh my God, I loved how you quoted the philosophy from a Chinese person, but I think it's deep, and we have to remember and remind ourselves time and again to live in the present, but also use the gift of what we have learned in the past to build the future.
Because I think for me, a lot of times we know this. There's no time like the present. You only have today. These kinds of things. But for me, in my hardest moments, it was like, so what? What's the how? What's the action from that? And I think again, that's where this kind of strengths and future focus comes in, is where you can think, yes, I'm in the present, but I don't have to sit in the present. I can be in the present and I can move into the future.
Yes.
And that's this powerful coupling of those two points.
I have a spontaneous question to that one. Do you have to remind every client you meet about this particular topic, like, bring back to the present moment? And how often is it that it's easy, especially for the working parents, to realize this?
Yeah, it is a quote that I use a lot in my practice. So I think the reminder comes up when it's appropriate, of course, depending on the individual needs or the course of the session. But yeah, and I really like to bring in this point of what it means to be present but still move toward the future. And also to acknowledge that there's things from the past that can inform the current situation, that can help us understand the who, what, where's, why's, and why are we here. But it's about, again, so what, how do we get there? So very
Yes.
action oriented
Yes.
in that sense. But yeah, from a parent lens, absolutely, because we spend so much of our time with these little beings that are growing so fast. How do we not jump into the future when we're imagining our lives with them, their lives, and the impressions or the expectations that we have that make us think what we need to do now to make that future possible? And sometimes it's just bringing it in and just saying, let's just be present with what, another quote that I say a lot to my clients is, don't address a problem that doesn't exist. What's the real issue right now in the present? Focus on that.
Yes.
You can't know in 3, 4, 5 months time, 10 years time, what the problem's going to be. Don't go into the future. You're gonna have anxiety. Come to the present. Be at peace.
Yes, oh my God, a lot of problems are created here, right? In our head, which don't exist. Oh my God, you say it so right. We all know it, but we don't know it, you know?
It's true. And just again, Lao Tzu says it, not me. But I love using this philosophy.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've lived, Ashley, in 3 different countries and worked in 3 different countries. How did those transitions shape you personally and professionally?
Yeah, that's a big question. So after I finished graduate school in California, I actually came to Switzerland as an au pair for a year of adventure and fun. And I met my would-be Swiss husband in Berlin while traveling. So a really unexpected and unanticipated permanent move to Europe. What that meant for me, though, was although it was a welcomed and a conscious choice to start my life here, to have a family here, it meant that a lot of my identity that was rooted in Californian culture, weather, food, family was lost or in transition, or really I didn't know what was happening. I really did not anticipate the struggles that I had as far as leaving my home country and being here as a permanent member of Swiss society. So my career took a little bit of twists and turns. I kind of found my way and felt relatively stable after some time. During that time, I also got professional help, which I think was my first taste of preventative mental health care. I don't know that they would have called it that at that time, but I knew I was just dealing with a situation that was heavy, not necessarily something that was chronic or diagnosable or needed assessment. But regardless, hard situation, I needed support to get through it. So once that felt complete in a way, we had the brilliant idea to move to another country right before COVID, to England. And so we moved to England with our 2-month-old baby, and started a new life together there. I started a new career, and it was a great opportunity to be in my native language again and really seek out some career opportunities that maybe I hadn't had during my first years in Switzerland. And that's probably where professionally everything started really coming together, is I had this opportunity to work in organizational and learning development. I completed my coaching qualification, and I think that's kind of this tipping point where everything started converging, and I started kind of, the stones for the path that I'm on now started being laid. So I had to answer your question again and kind of bring it home. I think personally what I've learned is all these, when I first moved to Switzerland, all these feelings I had of like, the Swiss are so, if they only would, or whatever, this kind of me versus them feeling. I experienced that, rightly or wrongly, it just was what it was. Moving to England, I was speaking the native language. I had a lot more cultural, raised cultural commonalities with the people, the natives, the people that live in England. At the same time, I found myself connecting mostly to fellow expats and immigrants. And what this taught me is that people that are locals just don't need the same kind of community as people that move around. They probably still have their school friends, their family nearby. And that's not to say that they don't want to be friends with me or I don't want to be friends with them. it's more about the unique journey each person has and where those commonalities cross. So I found in England, in Switzerland, even in America now, the people that I connect with the most are what I call internationally minded. They're people that either lived abroad, have intercultural relationships, have worked in large corporations, something that just gives them this understanding. And so it's not so much about us versus them, it's just about landing in the group that you connect with the most.
Yes. Yes, I felt every word you said in my entire being. Me being also an expat immigrant and married to a Swiss gentleman, I connect the dots so well. And I think I mean, let's acknowledge the fact that Switzerland has a lot of immigrants, high skilled immigrants, and they come here to make a home. And whatever you said is so true. Oh my God, that we actually try to fit in, but then we can only feel belonged where we are kind of understood. The same jokes, the same language, the same food. It brings us and binds us together. Yeah. Wow. So your transitions for three different countries, coming back from London to Switzerland, how was it? Has it been a bit difficult, or has it been? I mean, how did you make your professional journey like? Because you're thriving, you're doing so well. How do you make that happen when you come back?
Yeah, it didn't happen instantaneously. So, just for context, when we moved back from Cambridge, England to Switzerland, I was 9 months pregnant. And so we landed in June, and in July, my second son was born. So, what I'm getting at with that point was my first year was really like just focused on getting our stuff moved back from England, finding a house to put in, raising two boys, having an infant. So, just scratch that year out. Um, but what it did mean though is by the time that kind of the dust had settled from that, I absolutely did this sort of inventory of my strengths and thought about my future, and really, and actually came back to a point at the end of my coaching qualification studies. Coaching psychology was the first time. That's the first time it came up on my radar, and I thought, ooh, that could be something for me. So really, when the turbulent time of country transitions and having a second child settled, that's when I had the chance to go, okay, what all do I have? What do I want to make of it? And that's where this really kind of merging of my professional experiences, my knowledge came together with my personal experiences, and I guess feelings, perspectives, philosophies. And really, it felt so natural to start working in this area of preventative mental health care that was really, as I was saying before, it's a situational struggle. It's a situational depression, anxiety, or stress that just needs some getting through.
Yes.
And that's the beauty, I think, about what I do, is that it's this thought of how do we treat a human experiencing a hard time and just use the strengths to get them where they want to be.
Yeah, I see you put your heart out when you talk about your work, because it also brings in your personal experiences. You said you had two kids, which I understand, right? You've had, a choice and a wonderful, wonderful blessing of becoming a parent through fertility treatments, which is a deeply personal journey. How did that experience influence your work?
Yeah. During that time, I also had professional support to kind of help me through a rough patch. And it was having had that support, having had the experience, and knowing that given my qualifications and background, I could help someone else through it, was just it made sense to me. Because I don't want, if I could help someone not be where I was, that would already be that much, that would already be rewarding, that would already feel like I've helped the world. Really, in a broader perspective, that experience of infertility helped me understand this point that a lot of people talk about, like the before and after. So you get some sort of news, something changes in your life, and you kind of know, here's my before life, here's the life I imagined I'd have, and then this happened, and now this is what is. And making sense of what is, this thing that you never anticipated would be present in your life, a diagnosis, a major life change, the loss of a loved one, and you're just trying to figure out how to get through that, understand it, and get through it to be stronger on the other side. So I think infertility has taught me that, which means I can connect in a variety of situations with my clients, whether it's all the way from job loss to parental loss, and getting that perspective of, yeah, how do you change your outlook when it was just nowhere near on your radar that would be how you'd have to correct course or change course for your life.
Was there a defining moment when you realized that preventative healthcare needed to become your focus?
I think things like this are always a slow evolution. And I think where it really clicked for me is when I started seeing how versatile coaching psychology is as a practice. When we think about psychology, we automatically think about therapy, right? But of course, there's psychologists that do research, psychologists that therapy in the sense of healing traumas, doing diagnoses, dealing with assessments. And then there's applied psychology, which is the field that I land in. And we're the sports psychologists, the nutritional psychologists, the school psychologists. So we're the people that are there in kind of more everyday life, going from surviving to thriving and really bringing this flourishing. So I think for me, the moment came when I realized how that was a bit of a gap, that people automatically think about psychology as something to treat and to heal, whereas actually there's a huge amount of activity in the field of psychology as much as a need in the market for just help with everyday understanding of life. What is human behavior? How do we optimize it? What is it that I'm experiencing? And how do I work with that? And that it's okay to feel that way. So I think for me, it really solidified probably in the last year of all the summations of my experiences and qualifications. But yeah, and I think the defining moment probably feels, if I had to say, it's every time a client has that insight, that click, and leaves feeling regrounded, recentered, whatever. It's a repetitive defining moment where it's like, yes, that is impact, that is change, and that is bringing what I hope people can experience more often.
Wow. And you work a lot with corporates as well, the organizations. What part of your journey is invisible on those professional sites like LinkedIn, but essential to who you are today?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head when you suggested we have some music and dancing before the session. So for me, music is extremely important. I mean, it's something that really belongs to me, my lifestyle. I sing. I don't sing professionally. I don't play a musical instrument at all, but I love music and live music, particularly certain lyrics that just feel like they're words to a song, but they're words to life. I love using music to calm myself, to build myself up, and lyrics as a way to comfort me when there's things that I struggle with. And sometimes even in sessions, I'll offer up a song or a line of lyrics. It's poetry for the soul in that way, and I like bringing that to my personal life and, when appropriate, into my professional life as well.
Wow, so that was a really good idea to do the beginning of the podcast with some music. Yeah, and it's nice, wonderful for people to get to know Ashley, the famous Swiss psychologist who helps the people a little bit more behind the lens, right? What is not visible on the professional side. Amazing. What is the biggest misconception you think about being a high-performing professional and as a parent?
I think there's a perception that both need to be done equally as perfect, but exist independently. Meaning this idea of a work-life balance, that is the term a lot of people use. It's not a thing anymore. It's work-life blend. And it's this concept of there are life and demand and things that are happening throughout the day, not just this time and that time. It's not structured anymore. And so I think the misconception is that we can call it black and white and say this is the time for that, that's the time for this one. Actually, it needs to be blended. And part of the work that I do is working with parents to help them understand, what is this blend? What does it look like? What does it mean for me to take time off to do pickup, to do drop off, to take a child to a doctor's appointment? And also how they can work with their employer to make that request for a reasonable accommodation. just really creating more of an opportunity to feel like, yeah, I can wear both hats and feel good enough and successful enough in both.
Is it a myth that both have to be like blooming in their phases, professional versus personal, being a parent but being also high successful career? I think people put too much pressure on their head, right, that it has to be everything perfect.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And a big question I always have is, from where is this pressure coming from? What is it? Your own values, the values you perceive others to have. You're comparing yourself to your team members, maybe team members who are child free. And I think, and I just want to make a note that when I talk about parent professionals, I'm also talking about anyone who's a carer. I mean, there's caring responsibilities that exist as parents as much as adults caring for other loved ones in our lives. So I think it can be versatile in that way. But I think, to your question, yeah, I think you can be thriving and succeeding in both with the right lens of understanding of what your unique reality is, and not this measure against what you think you see others
Yes.
living.
Definitions can be different for everybody, right? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think so many parent professionals, the working parents, wait until burnout before they seek support?
Whether it's burnout, dissatisfaction, overwhelm, stress, anxiety. I mean, you can call it all kinds of things. I think people wait. I think they wait for a few reasons. I think they wait either because they don't realize how severe the situation is. Maybe they don't see the early warning signs about how actually heavy or the severity of the situation. But they typically wait until the problem feels too big for them to handle on their own. And at that point, it's almost this it's almost a sense of drowning, and they almost don't even know where to go to get support. So there's a little bit of a combination of things that really, once you're already feeling that heavy, you're not exactly sure where to go. But and something that really is important is the perception that is, particularly in a workplace setting, asking for help means you're weak.
Yeah.
It means you could be passed over for a promotion. This could derail your career. And for some, seeking support is a career killer, and they will avoid it at all costs. But that means that comes at the expense of their well-being in and outside the workplace.
Yes. Yeah, we need to normalize asking for help as strengths, right? And as I think I've seen, when you ask for help, the other side of the story, like people are also willing to help, and they feel like, I feel at least privileged when somebody trusts me to ask for support and help. I think also in professional life, depends where you're working, but also how you value yourself, right? And what you think, like you said, yes.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What does preventative mental health care actually look like in practice? Because we spoke a lot about preventative mental health care.
Yeah. I like to use an analogy actually, to explain this. Dentistry. So in dentistry, you have your self-care, you brush and floss your teeth, you maybe use a mouthwash. Then you have the dental hygienist, who's there to do a teeth cleaning maybe once a year, every 6 months, depending on what you need. And then you have the dentist, who's there for the really hard stuff, replacing your tooth, putting in those fillings, any other sorts of major dental work that need to happen. So when we're talking about preventative mental health care, that's this dental hygiene, the mental hygiene that you need before going to something like therapy. That would be like the dentist. So that's, in that analogy, that's where my work falls, is in this stopping that emotional, situational decay, if you will, from becoming a real deep problem that you need further support for.
Wow, you said such a good analogy. I love it. Dental health, mental health. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. I'm gonna remind myself time in this. I'm gonna use this also.
Great.
What early warning signs should people notice before things go spiral?
It's just being reminded, or the education of it. In any case, the things you would expect: disruptions to sleep, maybe eating or drinking habits change, your energy levels. Maybe you feel quick to react to situations, you blow up easily. And maybe it's things people say around you. Hey, you seem a little on edge, and this sort of feedback that people perceive. And just this constant sense of tension. those are some of the biggest and most obvious warning signs that something's not sitting right. It's your body doing you a favor to tell you something's a little off. Take a moment to pause and let's look at that together. That's your body working in your favor. If I had to sum it up, a lot of my clients say, I'm always yelling. And they have this impression that they're always yelling. And that is probably, if I distilled it to one thing, an early warning sign is if you feel you're always yelling, then it might be time to find some support, or at least find a way to let some of that pressure out.
I have a follow up question to that, because the people who watch, most of the people in Switzerland, when they ask for help, how do they find this help first? And like, there's also a topic about very expensive therapy, psychology support, and so on, right? Is this part of insurance coverage by some reason? Because that's something which is back of my head, but also for the people, I'm thinking from everybody's mindset, that comes often a topic, right? Could you say something about that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So, if we're gonna speak to the general population,
Yes.
so we're making an assumption that your employer doesn't necessarily provide any sort of employee benefits of this nature. So that the average person in Switzerland, my recommendation is to go to the Finder. It is the directory of all approved and registered psychologists in Switzerland. So it's the Federation of Swiss Psychologists runs it, and there's a vetting process to be part of this registry. Go there first. You can do a detailed search by language, need, location, etc. to find a psychologist. There's also a filtering process there by insurance coverage. So to this point about funding, yes, psychotherapy is covered by basic insurance in Switzerland. But I want to point out that that's not to say from day one it's automatically 100% funded. Very selective on your insurance package, and depending on how much you need to pay until the actual insurance kicks in. Yep, exactly. The franchise, and then also the Selbstbehalt, so this co-pays that you have to do. So just keeping that in mind, that it's not like, great, here's all your money for psychotherapy. There's some investment, and in Zurich, just as an example, the average hourly cost for a therapy appointment is 200 francs. In Basel, it's around 180.
Okay.
And so keeping that in mind, that could be a significant amount of out of pocket that you're paying until your basic insurance kicks in for psychotherapy to be funded. There are situations where that is going to be required. I want to stress that. There are times where it's very clear that psychotherapy is what needs to happen for an individual, and please don't let money be an issue. Take that path that you need for your own well-being and your own support. On the flip side to that, there is this option of preventative mental health care, as I've been talking about. For some insurance programs, it is funded through a supplementary insurance, the Zusatzversicherung. So again, still very selective on what kind of package an individual has. But an FSP psychologist could potentially be covered by supplementary insurance. And the advantage, in a way, is that you can engage with a applied psychologist, someone like myself or other fields, without getting a referral from your doctor.
Okay.
So it's a more direct access. It could be covered by insurance. However, it could also end up costing you the same amount depending on how much you have to pay until you reach the franchise and the Selbstbehalt and things like that. So I do not at all want to speak on behalf of anyone's insurance providers or unique plans, but I want to throw that out there too, as you're considering where to get support. Go to the FSP website, the Finder, first and foremost. And as you consider, consult with your insurance company. What do they cover? What are the limits? The breaking points of your financial spend, and use that as a guide to help you know, hey, is it time for me just can my situation have a starting point with preventative care, or do I need to go straight to that real thorough quality healing sort of care?
Yes, thank you so much for explaining that, because I think we talk a lot about this topic, but people need to be aware, and then they can take, informed action, where to find the help, what it will cost me,
Absolutely.
how can I prepare myself financially, but also mentally and emotionally, right? That helps. Maybe it would help for me to take some details from you later about this website and add it in the description.
Sure.
And also the organizations you work with, so people who watch, maybe if they find some organizations, they know, maybe some people are aware or not aware, they would know that, okay, they could reach you
Yeah.
with these organizations if they work.
Yeah, and if I could speak just
Yes.
one more point of that, I'm a board member for the Swiss Society of Coaching Psychologists. We are a subdivision of the Federation of Swiss Psychologists, and as part of that, we are advocating for preventative mental health care in and out of the workplace. And I also sit on a project group to work with between the FSP and the supplementary insurance companies to find a way to strengthen this relationship, explain it more, make it more an obvious option for people.
Well, that's very wonderfully said. Thank you for sharing. I mean, because this helps for people to also know that, it's a right person, has the right knowledge, because you're also part of the Psychology Swiss board. You work with organizations. If you could redesign the workplace for parent professionals, what would change first?
I would love to see more part-time roles at all levels of the organization for all genders. So what I mean by that is normalizing that you can work between 70 and 100% and still be at the C table. You can still work 70 to 100% and be a man. You can still work 70 to 100% and be a parent or a carer of another capacity. And this it's a very fascinating point for me, because we have this 5 day a week, 40 hours a week work week, thanks to Henry Ford in the Industrial Revolution and wanting to manufacture cars. We very much have moved beyond the Industrial Revolution. We're in the huge digital revolution. Why are we still working and living as if we work in factories? It's time to leverage the technologies around us and have more flexible working for the benefit of our well-being, our families, and knowing and opportunity. Because to be honest, if you think about a two-parent household, one individual working 100%, one working 0%, brings less advantages than two working 70%.
Yes. I had goosebumps when you said the change you want to bring is, both genders could work part-time, but that's not the reality of Switzerland, right? And that could really bring a change. Do you think there are some initiatives in, I don't know, something which in the board you are in, the Swiss Psychology Board, does that make any difference when you bring in such discussions there?
Yeah, maybe less so there, but it's certainly something that I like to talk about when I have the conversations, either with organizations or with fellow professionals, just to underscore what that means, what it means for the raising of children, supporting the birth rate, supporting the economy. I mean, if we're so worried about failing Social Security funds, then we need more people in the workforce. So let's create more opportunities for people to be in the workforce. So I could spend more time on that, but perhaps we save that for the next interview.
Yes. That's such a deep topic, and I think every woman, especially women, I say it, will relate to this, because there's a lot of, let's say, imbalance between the gender when it comes to workforce, right? Working opportunities. Yeah. How is Switzerland evolving in this space? For example, through subsidized kita and initiatives like Family Insight.
Yeah, great question. So Switzerland isn't necessarily, it's known for many wonderful things. It's not necessarily known for being progressive and inclusive. It has a bit more of a traditional edge to it, but is getting a bit of change. We are seeing that the parliament is currently reviewing a fundamental change to the way KETA is funded and actually providing a supplementary funding to that to actually decrease the KETA costs. So that's in process now. I'm not going to give an official update because it's probably out of date and moves at its own rate, but it is moving through.
Wow.
There is an initiative right now they're collecting signatures. So if you're a Swiss citizen, consider signing the Familienzeit-Initiative. So this is an initiative to effectively double the amount of parental leave that is allocated when at the birth or the welcoming of a child into a family, and that's a federally mandated amount of parental leave. And so it's a big one. It's a big change. It would actually make Switzerland's package quite comparable to some of the others in Europe. So almost make us part of the game rather than sitting on the sidelines right now in terms of what parental leave allowances look like. So signing this initiative means that it gives it a chance to be on the ballot in October. So Swiss citizens, please consider signing it so that the nation can vote on this important initiative for families.
We're going to add this link in the description so you can, if you haven't, please sign it or spread it among your Swiss friends, colleagues, people you know.
That'd be great.
Amazing. That's good news. That's amazing. What responsibility do you think organizations have in preventative mental health care?
I think at the very minimum, talking about it and at least making it seen as something that is an option before it's too late. And even knowing that we support this and encouraging individuals to take it up would already make waves. Because going back to this point of asking for help is seen as a career killer, and if people understand or at least are supported to feel otherwise, that's already going to build this sort of sense of confidence in the employer and confidence that people can get the help that they need for their team as much as for their families. In an ideal situation, I would advocate that employers actually provide preventative mental health care as a standard employee benefit, and that all employees would have access to that, and not access in a way that enhances their performance and their work outcomes directly, but what does it mean just to support a human and help them feel that they have the resources and are what they need to be in their personal life and their professional life, because it goes back to this work-life blend. And if you can be thriving at work, suffering at home, and you can't say they don't impact each other, because they do.
Yes.
And until we start providing benefits that go beyond performance and very work specific, we're missing out on an opportunity to just support what it is to be human and not just a worker.
What does progressive company culture look like beyond policies on paper?
This is always a fun one. I would love to see senior leaders walk the talk. And until we start seeing more flexible working in the C-suite, until we start seeing others making an example of what it means to take up these sorts of preventative mental health care benefits and options, and that being communicated. I want to make that important. It's that it's made an example, but it's also expressed. We believe in this. We're living it. We want you guys, meaning other employees throughout the organization, to be able to benefit and live by this too. And until that kind of offer is made, the perception of risk to engage in the benefits will remain. And you're still going to have that perception of asking for help as a career killer. So it needs to be demonstrated that it's not a career killer to be able to have that work-life blend that brings so much meaning. And again, I want to underscore again, it is unrelated to performance, but having something about employee well-being as part of a performance review, annual review, can demonstrate how important a company sees mental health well-being and why it's important for someone to engage, because it is going to be part of something that we want to ensure that you're engaging with. We're going to make it a part of our standard processes as well.
Yes. And when you say you want the senior leaders to walk the talk, how can these senior leaders create psychologically safe environments for parent professionals?
I think it is offering support, not just assuming they're going to ask for it. So, and part of that is going to be educating managers, and I mean managers who are parents and carers, and managers who have no direct or obvious caring responsibilities, because they having that understanding of what it means to be becoming a new parent, dealing with multiple children, dealing with loss, dealing with other caring responsibilities of an aging parent, for example. That educational piece allows a manager to have the hard conversations to make someone feel welcomed, and that they are able and encouraged to speak up when they need to. So it's really about help these senior leaders and managers develop this understanding and this empathy, and to offer the support, not just wait for it to be asked for.
I like when you say that, offering it and not waiting for the colleagues or people, team members to say it. That's very important, right? In today's time, especially when people are afraid and they are, like you before in the previous chapter, you said that, asking for help could be a career killer, and they wouldn't. And I think when you are proactively checking in with your people, it makes them feel psychologically safe to come to you when they actually need it.
Absolutely.
If a CEO of a company is listening today to you and me, what is the one immediate step they can take, would you say?
Yeah, so assuming they've not ever considered what preventative mental health care is or what it could mean for their organization, I would suggest they speak to their chief human resources officer, or appoint one if they don't have one, and to consider what it means to move beyond performance only based benefits, and what does it mean to invite more evidence backed benefits that support being human, that just support all that it is that we bring and take from the workplace. Because sometimes it's not just about what we have at home that blends into how we work, but what happens at work that comes home, and helping to put in that benefit and that culture that allows us to transition between the two, and feel supported in both.
I hope you're listening to this, and who's not a CEO, please pass it on to your CEOs.
Just a message from us to them.
Yes, because it could help you, right, in your workplace. How do we move from coping to flourishing at work and at home?
The answer to my last question alluded to this a bit, but it's boundaries, it's clear task distribution, household tasks, I mean, and what are managing expectations? What does it mean to manage expectations? So that goes for personal boundaries, knowing, okay, here's what I'm leaving at work, here's what I'm bringing home, here's what I'm not. It is task distribution between people, adults in the household, or those really contributing to work. I might actually put some children in that category, meaning understanding that they have a role to play, that they have certain responsibilities, age dependent, on doing their own laundry, setting out their clothes, clearing the table. I think a lot of times parents assume too much, and we actually can do more to manage the expectation of our children contributing to the household, and also the expectation management of what does it mean to be 5 years old? What does it mean to be 10? What does it mean to be a teenager? And kind of and not just understanding their perspective, but knowing we don't have to solve all their problems for them. What are our what can we expect of ourselves actually as our role of parents? So this is what I'm going back to, knowing the boundaries, knowing the task distribution, and managing our expectations of every member of the household, and to make sure that's harmonious.
I like when you are delegating, not only at work, but also at your home, it really makes everybody's life much smoother and easier, and flows. And at the same time, everybody feels also like contributing, right? Even the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I have two boys, and they are like, one is 4, the other one is 2.5. I'm already trying to always tell them, this is your small task, this is your small task. I think, and when you instill that pride in them when they do something small, it makes them also growing up to be independent. And these are the values you are bringing, right? And then when you distribute among yourself as partners, you're also teaching this, passing on to your kids when they're watching you.
So well said. Absolutely. And it gives you this sort of space in your brain knowing that, who else who's responsible for what. You don't have to think about that. You can let them cultivate their own self-trust and that confidence,
Yes.
and also know that they will get it done. And it gives you back some flex time in your brain and actual time. And I think it's really important to point out here, and as in the work that I do with couples, this is sometimes one of the biggest things that we sit and talk about, is just to look at the household management and to really get that understanding of what are all the moving parts that we're talking about. Because in some ways, until each partner understands what the other's doing, it's hard to appreciate something that's unseen.
Yes.
And so even sitting down and talking about this and understanding what are these tasks we're actually talking about, let alone who's doing them, really brings a clear understanding of how the household's being managed and who's pulling what. I mean,
Yes.
the house is like an organization in that way. You got to have job descriptions.
Yes, exactly. And in traditional Switzerland, right, where everything is like gender specific roles defined for generations. It's moving slowly, but I think what you say and what you remind you, I mean, you have to remind the people, right? This is there's a lot of invisible work which one gender does and the other gender doesn't even know what do you do all day, like.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, the final one, if every parent, professional, working parent listening today could hear one sentence from you, what would that be?
Yeah, bring it on home, huh? I think I would say that you are already enough, and do not let any external influence allow you to feel otherwise.
So nicely said. You are enough. I tell myself when you say it now.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing there, you're enough, and particularly in the eyes of your family. Again, this external influence, don't let that in. Focus on the people that really matter, and your own value system. Let that speak the loudest.
Ashley, thank you for sharing your wise experience, the words, your story, your insights, and your honesty so authentically. This conversation is such an important reminder that we deserve support before we reach burnout, and that change is possible both individually and systematically. To everyone listening, if this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might just need to hear it today, and follow Share Her Story and Ashley Ringer on her professional sites. We will add the link for more such conversations with inspiring women across Switzerland. Stay tuned. Until next time, keep trusting in your journey and keep shining in your story. Signing off, Pavna. Bye.